right. So today I am chatting with Jeremy Robison. I believe I'm saying that right, your last name.
And you got it.
I am super stoked to chat with you, man, because yeah, like I was just saying before I hit record, I saw your instruments and what you were doing, and I just wanted to reach out and genuinely chat with you. So to kick us off, do you want to just, explain where you're from, what you're currently doing, and yeah, what you're working on?
My name's Jeremy Robison, originally from Canada. I grew up just outside of Toronto, born in Oakville, Ontario. And, lived in Burlington till I guess I was 15. And then we moved to Utah. So I've been in the Rocky Mountains ever since. Uh, Part of high school here. Grew up in an LDS family, went on a Mormon mission to Puerto Rico, learned Spanish and met my wife shortly after. And yeah, we've just been here in Utah ever since. And yeah, I'm currently in music right now. So yeah, big career shift for me. And there's a bit of a backstory. We can go wherever you want, but that's the short intro.
Awesome. Dude, I didn't know you're from Canada or Ontario specifically. That's where I'm at right now.
What part?
I'm in Oshawa, but I grew up like in Whitby, Brooklyn, Peterborough, all over the place, kind of. So
Yeah,
that's
nice.
that's that's hilarious. Small world. How do you like Utah?
Utah's awesome. Like I grew up snowboarding too in Canada, but there was no mountains out there. And then I remember we used to come here for trips every March. And my parents are originally from here, so I was born dual citizen, kind of like American abroad. But yeah, so anyways, we used to come here and it was so surreal seeing the Rocky Mountains just like pop up like this. So I've just the mountains, yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah, we don't have too many mountains, if any, in Ontario. That's so cool, man. I ski as well, so that's funny. But yeah, I know over WhatsApp we had talked a little bit about, your story. I was saying I'd love to know what got you to this point. You said there was like a backstory and then there was like a more recent story or something. So I would love to hear a bit about how you got to where you're currently at with your company.
Yeah, so this is a fairly new business. I mean, we had kind of set sail pretty much before the end of last year. Like I was toying around with it behind the scenes for almost that whole year, honestly. The site was live. But yeah, I've been in clothing, so yeah, if you look me up, you can see that I was on Shark Tank season 7, I think it was. It's called Beloved Shirts. So it was a beautiful ride. Over a decade in the clothing industry, roller coaster ride as an entrepreneur there. And unfortunately, like in the past few years, it's felt like I've been swimming upstream per se, just like nothing was really working. There's economic shifts, of course, but yeah, maybe I was burning out at the same time. So in the course of those years, I started a music journey personally. It was interesting just with like messing around on the ukulele. I have an Indian harmonium, or technically they're originally from France, but they play them in yoga a lot. So harmonium really got me going, just this new passion unlocked. And yeah, over the course of those 3 years, I've been toying around even with 3D printers, just kind of like messing around with instruments, flutes actually, because I took a flute class and started to get interested in that. I'm fascinated by all kinds of instruments. Music's what's my passion really. But anyways, so tinkering around with these flutes behind the scenes, watching my clothing businesses slowly die. Like I kind of felt inside they were gonna die. And yeah, it's been rough. Like this past year, I'm dealing with debts and stuff with those. I have a lawyer helping me, but yeah, these businesses all essentially died, even the one that was on Shark Tank. So yeah, at the point of nearly losing my house, I had it listed for sale. At the same time, I'm printing flutes in my house. So it's a fascinating story. It's essentially saving my house, really, and keeping me to where I can provide for my family. But at the same time, like what's really cool, like the other day I had a conversation with my son just driving to school, and it didn't feel like it was coming much from an ego place in me, although it might sound like it. But I was like, hey JJ, like sorry, it makes me a bit emotional. I was like,
We're good.
what my biggest flex is, it's that I've found how to make work my play. Like I really have found that. So my passion has fused into work now, and it's a big career shift, and I'm so grateful. Like the community, thank you guys. But sorry, I just like all kinds of emotions.
Dude, all good.
feels great. Like I'm becoming who I am through this too. So it's powerful. There's a lot of interesting stories, backstories we could go, but right now it feels like true to me. I don't have to come across salesy like I used to. Like I'm making affordable flutes, so trying to get people into music. That's my passion.
Dude,
And
that's an amazing, what you just said is amazing. Thank you so much for expressing that. And I think that's partly what stood out to me. Like that your genuine passion and that vision you have really sticks out in your presence online and your content. So thank you so much for sharing that. Um, and funnily enough, like what you just described, like making your life play, or like combining your art with play, or just making your business play, that is literally something that is on the top of my mind recently. And that's partly why I'm starting this podcast, because it's one thing to like get online, and like these days making money online and business and all that stuff, there's so much buzz around it, right? But um there's not so much talk about like uncovering more of yourself and like rediscovering who you actually are, and then finding an extension of yourself that allows you to serve people or to create something beautiful. You know what I mean? So that's why actually I wanted to talk to you as well, because I saw like this is a dude who's like making play his kind of business, and I'm so intrigued by that. So I'm so excited to just ask you more about that. I'd love to hear more stories or specific moments, even like you said you just started kind of tinkering around with the flutes and like printing them and stuff. Like how did you even get into 3D printing, or like what kind of sparked this idea? Like was there a moment where you're like, "Oh, I'm just going to pick up a 3D printer," or like, "Oh, I'm going to print flutes." Like how did that come about?
well, it's kind of like honestly, it's so funny looking back at the story because the most interesting thing to me is now, like the presence. I've like this guy be here now. So I mean, like I go back now and connect dots and see all these interesting links. Like when did I get into flutes? Like this guy, Scott Wright, I'm gonna be on his podcast next, The Observatory. He's my flute teacher. He lives in Bountiful. And yeah, he's part of a drum circle that I go to, and he's amazing at the flute, just like insane. So I saw he was doing like a open flute class out in Salt Lake, and I took my first flute class and bought this little wood one like cheap on eBay. And yeah, I was just learning to walk the scales, super shy with it. Honestly, flutes in the beginning are like singing, like especially live. Like I used to go live so scared, and now I'm just like, oh, it feels so good. But anyways, it's like this crazy, interesting journey where you feel a bit shy with it. And then I started to uncover like that this was kind of like Scott taught me. He said this is an extension of percussion, really. Like if you can tap into your inner metronome, like this is where it changed for me. I started to like get more into dance, and this led me into drumming and dancing now. Like really like I'm starting to see music as almost mystical in a way. Like I don't know what deities there are in music, but I like to play with my own imaginary ones, like the god of rhythm. Like I respect that. I feel it in my body. Even when I fall off it, it's like I get zapped by like lightning, but like no shame. It's just like get back in that rhythm. So I'm kind of cultivating these relationships in music, and flutes were a huge pivotal part for that for me. So from there, naturally I'm an entrepreneur, so I start to wonder and kind of look out in the market, and I see how expensive they are. Like it's hard to get even a drone flute, like 200 plus dollars or whatever, even for a small one. So I was just, yeah, toying around with the idea of making some 3D printed flutes. I wanted to stay eco-friendly, so I had some resin printers, but they were kind of nasty, especially the air. And they're working on some biodegradable type of materials for it, but I eventually settled on this cassava material. It's made out of cassava, and it biodegrades in 6 months. That's how I started I Am Sound with that. Unfortunately, that company went out of business. I think they're global whale from Korea, I think. And I switched to Polyterra, so now it's all recycled. I'm staying eco-friendly, but yeah, I was just like carving out this new market, almost like it came very intuitive to me. Like I started to feel into my passion for music and those around me in the drum circles. And yeah, I just birthed this idea. It really wasn't a lot of sitting and planning and whiteboarding. Like I don't have a board or anything. It's just like, yeah, I'm learning a lot about the intuitive, like follow who you are. Like listen, the next message, it's always right where you are. That's on
Mm.
my, by the way, my personal.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's so powerful. Yeah, man, because again, like in this online world, it's so common. Like there's this idea like you have to sit down and just grind it out, or go monk mode and, lock yourself in a dark room, get your whiteboard out. What?
It's important to remember that we don't have to have it figured out first. Like start where you are always, like always. That's a big thing I carry in anything I do, part of my entrepreneurial spirit. And yeah, there's always some like growing pains and stuff, but I'm a big fan of starting. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's like a huge um point of resistance for a lot of people, at least speaking for myself. Like for the longest time, I've had ideas. Oh, I want to try this. I want to try this. But like, you have this ideal of perfection, or, oh, maybe it's not the right thing yet. Like, I'm going to wait for that right idea and then I'll take action. But like you're saying, I'm learning for myself too. It's like you do things first and iterate, and then it becomes clear over time what your lane really is, right?
Totally. And one of the biggest blockers to that, I feel for most people and even myself, is fear. So we get so caught in how people perceive us or who we think we are, even. Like Ram Dass often talks about these spacesuits we put on. Like we form this ego identity of who we think we are or should be. And that sometimes paralyzes us. So I'm a big fan of the game of becoming nobody, of surrendering into what is. And when you do that more often, it's you get hooked on it. It's like an awakening, really. Like when you wake up to the, hey, I'm a lot more than I think I am. There's something more than this. That's where it starts to be a game where you just keep playing with starting where you are. Yeah.
Mm. Can you talk a bit more about that? Like when it comes to like identity, I feel like identity is important, right? Like if it's so easy to fall in that trap of what you're saying, like limiting yourself based on your past, and old stories defining who you are today. Like, do you have any thoughts on that? Like, is there any like practical ways that, when you started going down this creative rabbit hole, like did you have to put any work into like consciously shaping your identity and embracing and surrendering to like some other version of yourself? You know what I mean?
Yeah, like it's interesting because it doesn't feel like it's like this other spacesuit I'm putting on. It really is a shedding of who I think I am. And going into here, like right here, even the linear thinking, I used to think so linearly of like this plan of salvation or things like dangling carrots and shaming myself along the way, where it's so much more interesting to be here now, and to listen. And I think who we are often changes. Like consistency, there's an interesting story of Gandhi. He had like this huge group of people on this march, and they were about to go out this next day, and he just kept calling it off. And eventually they're like, is this, what do we do? We gotta, just get out there. And he called it off, and he said, my commitment is to truth, not consistency. So, truth is relative. We're always changing, things. It's a matter of like surrendering into the moment, I feel, more, as opposed to getting so caught up in the storylines, even the astral ones. There's spiritual materialism too. There's all kinds of rabbit holes we can go down, but the most interesting thing is now.
Mm.
And very much kind of uncovering a lot of Eastern philosophy in my life as a part of this. Even music is intertwining with that. But yeah, it's so much more interesting to explore inside. I feel like it is an inside game. You see in India by the Ganges, a big statue of Hanuman ripping his chest open. Sita Ram, he's showing us this is an inner game. Like these are symbolic energies. And it also is outer, but like I've been so caught up in this storyline of outside me and not feeling myself because I'm in shame and I'm not allowing myself. So when I allow myself more, it's just totally different. So that's how I would describe it.
Dude, that's huge. Yeah. In the society, it seems like there's so much emphasis on the external, and people putting their hopes and dreams, like they're far away from the present moment. Like, oh, like this is gonna, that goal, that flashy thing over there, that's external, that's gonna define me, and I don't have that right now. But yeah, there's so much truth into what you're saying. I feel like intuitively as well, just like embracing the present moment and understanding that, like, I don't know, you're worthy of that now, and there's ways to like kind of cultivate that and like demonstrate that
Yeah.
today. Like, for example, I something I think about is like, wanting to live, say, on the water or something, or like being outside, like being in nature. That's that's a trap one can fall into where it's like, oh, yeah, I want to live in nature. I want to spend a lot of time in nature, or like by the water or by something. But that can be some external thing that's nice to have, and it's nice to think about that. But I can also appreciate, oh wait, like I do have like a forest like a short walk away from me, and oh yeah, there is like a creek there. So theoretically, I can already embody that experience like right here. I don't have to like project it on something else. Like it looks different, yeah, like by this lake or by this mountain or something, but there is nature like literally outside my house, right? Like I can also go for a walk, and that's what I'm starting to do recently. So yeah, like on that note of what you're saying, just embodying like yourself now or like the present moment, I think that's so huge.
Yeah, it really is. It's like Taoism too. Like even going from India now into Asia, it's this philosophy of getting out of your own way, really. Like, the moments I feel most connected to what true Taoism is when I'm being the most true and authentic with my own self, like even allowing myself, even if I'm feeling some kind of way, like there's nothing that I can't it's the push and pull of life that's so where we get caught so much. And it's a game, like we're in this, like they say it's a lila. A lila in India is a play, a divine play. So, and it's far out. Like if you dig into Alan Watts, he'll even go into the word person, which comes from the root of these dramas where they had these sound masks, like the mask through which the sound comes through.
Well,
So a person is a persona, like we are masks through which sound is coming through. So well, I am sound. That's far.
whoa, okay. That's sick.
It's so fascinating to look at life as more of a play. Like when you're playing music, for example, you're not finding a specific note in the song that boom, I made it. Like here I come. Oh, there I go. Like it's not that. It's the whole piece. And dancing, it's not to get to that point on the dance floor. It's all about the dance. So I really like the way they see that. I try to live that way more, to just like be in the now. Of course, don't like let go of all thinking mind and goals. Like I'm a businessman, I have to do this, but I play with the form and the formless, like trying to be in the world but not of it, as Jesus would say, really. So it's
Mm.
a dance of both, but really, like, where are you sitting? Where is your heart? Your seat sometimes can be up here, where this necessarily is a great servant, but not the best master. So my game is more to bring it down into the now, as opposed to always chasing thoughts,
Mm.
space between the thoughts.
So true. On that note of like the dance, like when it comes to being a business owner, and then also in your case, you have a very creative business, like there's a lot of artistry and creativity that goes into what you do at the moment, right? How do you kind of do that dance? Do you have any thoughts on that, like insights on that? Because I feel like a lot of people, including myself at times, have felt that kind of battle within. It's like, okay, am I full artist? Do I have to just be full artist, or do I have to embrace business? Like, how do you integrate those two? Do you have any kind of thoughts on that?
I do actually. Have you ever read the Bhagavad Gita?
No, but it's on my reading list.
Oh, but it's a sacred Indian text, and it is all about this. It's all about the war within. And really, what they teach in there, like that, if I were to take a footnote up for you, it's to let go of attachment to outcomes.
Mm.
Go into the war, fight that war, kill your cousin. Like it's insane. Like this teachers fighting each other, their school students. It's all gnarly. And there's Krishna, who's the counselor to Arjuna, the prince leading one army, and it's this whole dialogue between Krishna and him, and Krishna represents the world, all forms, So he's going into this battle fully, and he doesn't want to fight because he sees it's his like uncle, right? And Krishna is telling you you have to go into the fight, and it's this whole dialogue to where you're learning about the game, how to let go of attachments, especially to the outcomes, the fruits of the action. So as a business owner, I feel like that's the game I'm trying to play here. I used to get so caught up in the sales, and now I'm surrendering more into the community, like the energy even that comes through the community in form of money. It's coming through, and it feels different. Like as I said, I was swimming upstream for 3 years in clothing. I feel like I'm coming down Niagara Falls with I Am Sound. It's insane, but it's super intense at the same time, because I'm like, I'm a Scorpio. I don't know if you want to flip to the astral channel, but they're known for, Phoenix rising out of the ashes. There's a lot of intensity in me. And I felt like I did hit rock bottom. Like that was so hard. It
Mm,
why I'm emotional. It was
oh,
still hard, but
mm,
this Grace, like this is amazing. Thank you for, sharing what I'm doing. And yeah, I'm just trying to let go of attachment to the outcomes because that was a very scary game for me back in the day. So
mm.
I highly recommend the Bhagavad Gita.
Dude, okay, I got to download on my Kindle. Thank you so much again for coming on and like expressing yourself and sharing your story. Um, I want to ask you to, I see a couple flutes or a few flutes there. I want to ask you in a sec to maybe demonstrate one of those if you're down to do that. But at first I wanted to say too, or what was I just going to ask you before that? Oh yeah. Was there a particular moment, starting this out where, so you're playing around with flutes, you're starting to print them at home and stuff. Like, was there a particular moment where you got that resonance back from the world and was like, oh, there's something here. This is something to run with. This is exciting. Like, what was like, an early glimpse into the possibility that, oh, maybe there is something like here to explore.
Again, this is where you go into the macro and you connect the dots, like, because I'm not planning any of this, but it's so far out. Like, I was toying around with it for early last year, not confident in it. All I had was my D5 pocket drone, which today it's one of our best sellers. Like, I don't know why I was shy about it, but anyways, it was kind of high pitch, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can compete in the flute world. Sure enough, we launched I don't even have it on me, but it's the double barrel version of our F sharp 432 hertz. I played it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this sounds just like the wood ones. Like, this is insane. We're onto something. And then I was like swimming in the craziness of the clothing, trying to get out of debts. And that was like on the back burner. But then I hit rock bottom with the clothing. And I remember hitting that moment of just like absolute like surrender. Like, this is it, dude. Like, use your last penny for this. It's so
Wow.
and it took off. It's huge now. Like, people like it. I feel confident. These are good instruments. They're helping people. So yeah, it's so crazy how that turned out. Like, that was literally from the ashes where this was born, where I like spent my first like Facebook ad budget. Like, I hit click. I'm like, balls in your court, God.
Wow.
You-
That's
And
amazing.
surrender. You got to dive into the fire. You look at India, they see Kali, she's the goddess in the void. And, she represents, like, you see her wearing heads of men on her, and she's standing like with like 10 arms and swords. She's the slayer of the ego. She helps you surrender. So when we're so caught up here in the fear, if we give it to Kali, and this is energy, think of it like that, it's surrender. When you give up entirely to that, you become like who you are. Like, there's other artwork of her holding little children. She's this gorgeous goddess. So I like to play a lot with the India mythology. Hanuman's a big one for me because of Ramdas mostly. And he represents like a Christ archetype, really. Like, it's very similar to Christianity in that sense. And I'll just say one quote from Hanuman. Ram was asking him who he was, and he looks at him and he says, "When I don't know who I am your faithful servant. But when I know who I am, you and I are one and the same." So it's this in and out of duality. It's bhakti yoga, the devotional spirit, the pull to God. That's the path I've uncovered for me that really works. A lot of it has to do with music. Thank God. So yeah, I'm a bhakti.
Wow. That's so cool. Dude, you know so much about spirituality and like these concepts by the sounds of it. Like I'm into Ram Dass and like Alan Watts as well, but I feel like I've definitely just like scratched the surface. But it's so cool to hear you like integrate like these concepts and like these figures and from different, religions and stuff.
A framework, really, and you integrate it into your practice of your life. Like, we're in a curriculum. Ram Dass would often talk about like this woman named Pam Rodagas would channel. It's like a social memory complex or something named Emmanuel. Super far out, but he'd get a kick out of it and like play with that. And there's some fascinating quotes through what came into that conversation. And one of them was Emmanuel was telling him, like, he's like, "What are we doing here, Emmanuel?" He's like, "What? You're caught up so busy being holy. Why don't you try taking the curriculum, being human?" you know and that's when it really dawned on him to go into the human, not just stay in the formless, because you're caught either way. You're going to fall from there or you're stuck there. So he really learned a lot from that moment to integrate the human experience. And I don't even know how we got on that tangent, but
I love it. That's so cool. On that note, do you want to demonstrate one of those flutes there? Like, I would love to share, the sound of them to people who maybe are unfamiliar with your brand.
Yeah, so I just have a few with me. A couple of these are actually just samples in development, but they sound awesome. It's more positioning the comfort. This is one of our final ones. It's a D4, our lowest sounding flute, 432 hertz. I'll just play it. I have lots of toys. These are even one of the first developments, huacas. So it's our harmonic ocarina, but with another chamber. It's actually kind of how I first got into IM sound was looking into these, but then I pivoted into this instrument because that's when I was learning faster.
How important do you feel it is for someone who wants to be more creative or, tap into their authentic, expressive, creative selves? How important is it to kind of go down rabbit holes and, not limit to yourself to specific hobbies or specific things, like being open to blending things and, going down maybe a bunch of rabbit holes at once?
Joseph Campbell says, follow your bliss. Like, if you can listen into what brings you bliss, music is where I uncovered a lot of that. And to me, all the instruments lead me there, and each of them have different journeys. So, yeah, I'm ADHD since I was a little boy, and I definitely play around with lots of instruments and even lots of hobbies too. I love pickleball. I want to get into painting and doodling more, making some shirts for I Am Sound. But yeah, it's I would just say listening to where your bliss is, like find that what if you're into dancing, go dance. Drumming's huge for people when they uncover that. Rhythm, something about the god of rhythm. You gotta look into him. Or
Mm. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna write that down.
do people tell you you look like Ryan Gosling, by the way?
No, maybe. I don't know. Maybe before. Do I really?
Especially your Instagram profile. It's far out. You know why I say that? So I grew up in Canada. My dad was the Mormon bishop out there in Burlington. Sure enough, Ryan Gosling, back when he's like 16, moves into our ward. He was Mormon at the time. And I see him up there and he was on like YTV or something, and not big, maybe Mickey Mouse Club. And I was like, I seen that guy on TV and no one believed me. He was like preparing the sacrament. And then sure enough, it's Ryan Gosling. We became friends. I think he would remember me. He's a I'd love to connect with him. But anyways, I taught him how to skateboard for one of his episodes. He's like, can you teach me how to skate? But you look so homies,
That's
right?
that's wild, dude. That's so funny. Small world. But I appreciate that. Yeah, like I feel maybe in the past or something, but I know he's a Canadian, right? He's a huge Canadian star.
Fun mission too. Yeah. My dad,
Wow.
so he definitely would remember my dad.
That's so crazy. That's so crazy. Um, I want to touch on too, like I think you've kind of talked about it a little bit, but with what you're doing right now with I Am Sound, like what do you hope what kind of impact do you hope to have with what you're doing?
Well, like I said, I'm trying not to hang on to attachments to outcomes so much and like, but I do like to play with the future. In fact, I get like little glimpses or visions sometimes, especially of new categories and instruments. Like I don't plan to only be doing flutes. And there's parts of me that feels more of the pull to the earth and wanting to get more involved with filaments for 3D printers. There's a brand called Reflow. They make this stuff actually. I haven't launched the collection, but they take plastic like Sprite bottles and things out of the oceans and they make this. So I want to get involved somehow. They're out in the UK. Gorgeous filament, really good sound. See if you can hear it.
I was going to ask you too, like when it comes to 3D filaments, I know nothing really about 3D printing, but how many options are there like out there in terms of like the actual materials themselves? Like, are there a lot of options for eco-friendly ones or different kinds?
Yeah, there's actually quite a bit. Well, for eco-friendly, no. And that's partly why like people ask me in case they're watching this podcast, like from the comments a lot, like, are you going to sell the STL files? I want to print them. And there's a part of me that wants to because like it's letting them print from their own printer and all that. But there's two parts that hold me back for now. Like I might consider some of the flutes like the smaller ones, but the main one is I don't know what filaments they're going to use. There's a lot of like, I try to, for the business, I'm only doing polyterra at the moment, which is a carbon negative option, and also the quality control. Like I've been through the ringer with printers. I now have a bunch of Bamboo Labs, and they work great. But some of the flutes might not work, and I don't want them, you know, saying it sucks and when it doesn't, so there's certain parts where I'm trying to keep this, all in a safe container for it to grow. But yeah, I don't know if that's what you're asking or more about the future, but I get little
Yeah.
glimpses and I see myself being more involved with music myself personally too. I do want to start recording. I get some like funny comments that are like far out, like from I don't know, like DJs and hip hop guys that want me to do producer packs. What I didn't even know what that means, or a sample pack. And I'm Googling what this means to try and know what I'm saying. But like I'm just being authentic. Like people know I'm learning the flute even as I'm selling this. Like this is all totally transparent. It's what Ram Dass does. Like to me, the best teachers are those that are mirrors. So like you look at Tony Robbins, for example, not to judge him or anything, but like you go to one of those seminars and you feel like there's this pedestal and you're down here and you're not there. So you want someone that can reflect who you are, to give you a mirror to the inside game that I'm talking about. And that's what I'm trying to also do with I Am Sound. So there's a part of this mission that's, of course, to get people into music in an affordable way, but also to share with them from my heart, what's coming through. And I'm just listening for that. And I don't know where that will go.
Wow. Yeah, I feel like that's a powerful insight in regards to like people doing their own thing online even and like showing up and maybe expressing themselves because there's like this idea that you have to have it all figured out or before you make your first post be an expert in this and stuff. So I love what you're saying there about like you're literally someone who's creating and selling flutes but you're learning how to play yourself. Like that's really cool.
It's a framework. It's really the framework of becoming nobody, just what Ram Dass teaches, get out of your own way, start to listen. And that's what I'm trying to do here with the flutes and this whole business too. It's just totally getting out of my own way and not picking anywhere to stand. It's like I don't need to research and be an expert because I'm not picking anywhere to stand. This is a nobody game, the mirror game. I don't know if you can see that. It sounds really trippy, but it's true to me. And it's the way I want to teach. And so others can relax into who they are. Like, let's allow people to be. Let's not shoot upon each other.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And be some guru, like salesy guy. Like, there's all kinds of people out there on the internet, but my whole game's the game of becoming nobody. And you can't do that too early in life. He teaches that as far out because you got to learn to become somebody in the world, in the marketplace. Get out there. But then when the awakening starts, when you start to wonder, that you've been had, like I was promised I'd be happy, I got the job, all this, you start to feel a bit had. That's the awakening. Sometimes it goes through a dark night of the soul per se, but it's beautiful because it's cracking you open into a process which he describes as becoming nobody. And from there, the far out, the Bhagavad Gita, take the formless, go back into the somebody and slay that shit. That's what I'm trying to do now. So it's like, it's a really cool game. I love Ram Dass. I highly recommend listening to they have a lo-fi radio 24/7 on his channel. So I often just listen to that throughout the day. And to be honest, I don't want to like say it's a replacement for therapy for anybody, but I come out of that feeling like I had a therapy session.
Whoa.
So
I didn't know that. I didn't know they had like a channel like that. I just wrote that down.
it has lo-fi beats. Sometimes I get my tablets out and just jamming and out of my head, just receiving, you know.
Wow, wow. That's awesome. I'm gonna check that out. That kind of reminds me too of like I want to ask you about like getting in the zone creatively or like flow is like a term that's used often, I feel like online. Like, do you have any like could be a simple practice or just like ways that you kind of tap into that kind of energy, like your creative side, get into a flow state? Anything come up for that?
Well, there's lots of methods to get into flow. And Ram Dass talks about them. He'll even say all methods are traps at the end of the day, but they're useful. And in order for the method to work, you have to be trapped by it. So, for example, let's say breath work's one of them. You will go through breath work and it's amazing. And say that's like kind of like your happy place, like you're almost hooked to the that's the way that gets you to flow, right? You don't want to end up just being a good breath holder. You want to be free. So eventually you almost transcend the methods per se. One of the methods I use is cannabis. I'll be straight up with you. That's huge for me in helping me quiet my mind, tap into my body. And I use it intentionally a lot for music, even when I'm making these reels. Most of them are first try because you're already there. Like it's funny. I record like five or so, and it's usually the first or second, because it helps me get there. The flute, even outside of cannabis, is an amazing way to quiet the mind. Oh my gosh! Like when I play that, it's breath work as well as a drum. It's just instantly putting me in my body when I'm really doing the practice, right? Like to play the flute, you got to tap into your body, like the inner metronome. And when you do it, it's like playing those card games where you find a match and you just know where to go back to get it, and you feel so good because you dinged it. So to me, it's like a game that also gets me there into the flow. But yeah, a big part, like in speaking or like doing this podcast, I mean, we just got to get out of our thinking mind for a bit. What can we do to quiet the mind, right?
Mm.
Yeah, often you can just do that by shifting, like just that little flip. But
Yeah. No, that's awesome that you even bring up like flutes and like instruments in general. Like I feel like definitely can be used that way to enter that flow state. And I was going to ask you as well, like I'm someone who has very limited experience with like wind instruments, maybe just like recorder when I was in elementary school. But do you have any advice for someone who, yeah, maybe wants to? I'm definitely going to pick up one of your instruments, and I want to know which one's your favorite or which one you recommend to someone who, yeah, has minimal experience, if any, with like wind instruments.
yeah, I would say like my favorite to learn on is the barrel version of this. It's the F sharp, and it's the first one that I felt confident in, and it's still my favorite, I would say. I just always love going there. And there's a fun backstory to it. So my 3D designer, the engineer that takes my concepts and makes them reality on my printers, his name's Ibrahim. He lives right by the pyramids of Egypt. And when we made that flute, we did some research on it, and it's the same frequency that's in the top of the pyramids, F sharp, 432 hertz. And I was like, whoa, like this is crazy. All these like dots you connect, and but it's fun. The journey with I Am Sound is so much play, so far out. It feels like I'm in like an RPG, like old computer game, Return to Zork, and there's wizards on the path, and like people like you, or like people that slide in my DMs, like Bernardo Cano. He's teaching me how to play overtone flutes through DM, and I'm like the menu wizard, like talk and respond. I go on. It's like so far out music and the people that are coming to me through this. I know it's not just going to be flutes. I'm going to be definitely into a lot more than that, percussion as well. So,
Oh, sick. Wow. How, or like, do you have a like plan or soon, like how soon that might happen? Like when you want to kind of get into that territory?
well, I'm staying in the 3D print territory for now, and I've been doing research. I have to look into the carbon negative components of it, but there's like a PETG or a very strong material that they're advertising even sounds like a bell. So I was like, I don't know about 3D printed hand pans, but maybe a fusion of a hand pan with a djembe or something, where I'm like getting the scale on D major, but it has this kind of bell material that's in a dress. So I'm thinking innovations, like a lot of music, the territory in the music world is so open to innovation, especially this. So yeah, it's just like I'm a kid playing right now. This is a super fun game.
That's so cool. Um,
Yes. You know?
on that kind of note, like carving out your own path, like doing things that are new, maybe not seen before. Like I personally, I don't know if there is another brand that's done this. Like to my knowledge, you seem to be the first that's like printing musical instruments in that way, right? Like what tips might you have for like someone who, yeah, maybe they're in a job they hate, like a 9 to 5 or something, and they feel that call within them to express themselves, to try something new, to create more, but they just haven't yet. And they have this idea though that like, yeah, maybe I can carve out my own path. Like, do you have any advice for someone who's in that position? They're maybe on the brink of doing something, maybe making that leap.
Yeah, it's a tough leap. And to be honest, when you're living in like debts and finance shit, it's hard. Like it almost robs your consciousness for a bit. And to even line up the dots to make certain huge career shifts, I would say get grounded, like figure it out first, like become somebody, get your finances in order and play with your hobbies. Like say you're at a job you hate, you can't just quit that per se. If you're a dad and you got kids, you got to pay the bills, but carve out space in your day for your bliss, for your passions, your hobbies. And maybe as things start to align and you dream more and you work on this energy that's coming through you, you can align work as your play if that's what you want. But if not, try to make your work even your way to go to God. Like it's funny, like Ram Dass will like hear these sirens of a fire truck through a lecture, and people might be agitated or annoyed, but he's like, breathe that in. That's free energy. You know, the grist for the mill of life, like things like in the Gita, go into war. You know, you can, if you're neurotic, he says, if you're neurotic in Chicago, you'll be neurotic in New York. It's like you don't need to go somewhere to get holy. It's always right in front of you, even your work. So you can play with the play that I do in music, even in the macro of your life. And that's what's brought with this nobody game, because I'll like sometimes I think I'm going crazy because I'll like talk to myself when I'm alone sometimes and I'll laugh like it's like cosmic jokes with myself. This game of just like what am I going through, even the hard things, and gotta soften up. Like look at the laughing Buddha for a bit, you know?
Mm. That reminds me about like maybe a woo-woo-ish kind of thing, but doesn't matter. The idea of like synchronicities and things like that. Like I'm curious what your thoughts are on like maybe looking back, like in your story, how you got to this point.
Yeah.
Were there any specific moments that like looking back are like, oh, that was actually key? You know, at the time maybe it seemed like irrelevant or just random or maybe even a bad negative experience, but oh, if that didn't happen, maybe, you know, I wouldn't be where I am today and pursuing your authentic expression.
Yeah, totally. It's huge that way. Like I even listed a couple earlier, just these dots that you connect, but even the hard times, yeah, you look back at that and this is all just grist for the mill. Like think of like Lehigh Roller Mills, like all of this, the suffering is grace. You know, really, when you get into it, it's awakening you. You know, what's keeping you from God? Like, you know, you're just often one thought away from it, you know? So I feel like it's a purification process. You know, what we go through when we start to awaken to more than we think we are, there might be hard things thrown our way. There might be a dark night of the soul, per se, but there's this element of trust like in the bhakti spirit, like the pull to God even through the suffering can be transformed to feel like grace. Like I know not often in the moment of it, but I've been playing around with that, for example, in massage therapy. I go get these massages where they walk on my back, and this girl Sylvia, she's almost like an energy worker too, but I'm learning through my body how to navigate life now through this, because like she was playing with like parts that would really be painful. And I started to practice. This is like personal to me, but just like in my way, I was opening my body more to it, breathing, and then even on the exhale, like trying to like open more. And that trust into the pain of the suffering of what that was, it turned it to bliss. I kid you not. I was like, this is so far out what I'm learning. And the tickle points too, things that would get me crazy. I tried that same thing. And sure enough, it transformed into this melting bliss. So I feel like when you zoom out back to your life, you can take these parallels and really it's working for me. This nobody game. Like stop hanging on to who you think you are so much, you know, like ease into what they call the Tao, like let God prevail.
Mm.
How you see a lot of people see God differently or have a very boxed in view of it, but um you know, it's almost like Alan Watts would say, we're all God in drag, you know, pretending we're not for a bit. But like when we can listen and get into the Tao, like it comes through us, you know, in an
Hmm.
essence to us, you know, whatever that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so are you saying, Jeremy, like with that, like did you started to learn what you just described literally at like your massage therapist, like having those massages?
Yeah, well, a lot of it's intertwined with like swimming around the words of Ram Dass on the lo-fis. I listen to it. It's like in the Mormon church, there's a Book of Mormon phrase where they would say, feast upon the words of Christ, because the words of Christ will tell you all things what you should do. And I feel like in a way I'm doing that. It comes up often. I'll like drop these little Ram Dass nuggets like here on the podcast. And it's swimming around my consciousness as part of my framework and trying to cultivate that witness part of me that's always there. And yeah, I'm so grateful to him. That's why I part of what I'm doing with I Am Sound, I'm essentially sharing a lot of the passion I have that's coming from this man and what I'm receiving and experimenting with in my real life to share that, in any
Wow.
way. I don't know how that's going. I hope to one day connect with them. I've been to their retreats, Love, Serve, Remember Foundation, but I just feel a big pull to him. He's
Wow.
never met him in the flesh. He's my soul homie though.
Wow. Yeah, there's something there about like I know people like you can refer to someone online or you've never met or someone who's died as a mentor, right? Like if they've im- you know given you some kind of value or information that's like life changing, like yeah, it's like, hey, that was my mentor in a sense, right?
Really, yeah, it's a connection for sure.
Right.
There's lots of
Um,
you just got to find the mirror one. Like they say God, guru, and self are all one and the same. And there's different levels of guru, like the Sat Guru to the Upa Guru. Ram Dass to me in that way is a Sat Guru. He's like the mirror teacher that's starting to open up me. And now I'm becoming more like his game. And it's so weird when I listen to the things, I'm seeing more parallels in my life to his. So it's just it's working for me. And I wanted to share that on the podcast because it's beautiful. Ram Dass, thank you.
that's so awesome. So cool. Um, One thing I also just side tangent I wanted to ask you about as a creative person, as an entrepreneur, there's a lot of talk about AI these days and how it's going to continue to impact the world. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that, like in regards to um not so much like AI like taking over creative things or whatever, but maybe on the positive side, or at least to me, inspiring side is like maybe AI as a means to give people more time to pursue their passions, to express themselves. Maybe it's going to take over more monotonous aspects of work and those kinds of things. What are your thoughts on AI at the moment? And what role do you think it's going to serve moving forward?
I have some thoughts on it. I'm going to have a lot more soon because I'm reading A Brave New World by Aldous Huxley from the 1920s.
Uh,
I feel a pull to that book. Ram Dass often shares about it, and it's teaching us about our world that's unfolding today, which is very interesting to me, especially when I'm getting more involved with spirituality and how like we're learning about all these like ancient cultures and things, and here we are with AI, right? And so it's fascinating. I feel pulled to that book. I'm so far, I think AI has been a useful tool for me personally. I don't use it with the flutes. Like I'm thinking of maybe the 3D modeling app. It's called Tripo to do some like ornament objects, maybe of monkeys and things to go on the flutes. But yeah, it's kind of trippy to listen to AI music. I'll tell you, like it sounds cool, and I'm sure it can be tapped into to receive. But yeah, music is very collaborative, and even the receiver I think could unlock that. But there's one word that I think will save us from all the gloom and doom of AI in the future, and that word's nostalgia. And that think records, for example. You just tell someone vinyl records, and there's hope. Why do we have those still? Why are they surging again? Why will we still probably want restaurants of people to like be hands-on with their art? So I think AI is starting to be, in a way, outsourcing a lot of the work and labor, but it's interesting because look at the Industrial Revolution, right? Like we got so fascinated with the clock and shifts, and here we are in the thinking mind, Western world. The Native Americans call when they saw the conquistadors come, they had a term for what was going on called Wedico. It's a disease of the spirit. They didn't see them so much as enemies, they had more of a pity on them, that they were sick. And so this kind of industrial, I'm just zooming out, thinking out loud, but like it's far out because here we are with AI now, maybe allowing us to outsource a bit of this to let us play. So there's the I'm a
mm,
bit of hope with AI, maybe that, and it gets weird when you fuse it with the play. I don't want it to kick me out of me in my instruments, but it's far out. Like I don't know what to think about that, but I do feel like, and then you look at those movies, that cartoon where they're all blobs, right, in the chairs, fat. I don't think we'll get to there because what's going to happen is it's going to outsource, yeah, all the jobs, maybe zoom out 1,000 years, but here we are left with our bodies, our hearts, and who knows what those are going to guide us to, and AI with it collaboratively. But I think we're going to play more. That's my prediction.
100%. I agree, man. Yeah, like what's left to do once monotonous jobs are taken, no one has to grind away as they used to. Like it's a whole new like paradigm that we're entering. I don't know how kind of quickly it's going to unfold, but I agree with you totally. Like people are going to play more. And that you can even before then, people can start playing more today. Like,
Yeah.
right?
And here it's replacing like chat GPT, get the text to say that. And it's like, who knows what's real coming through. But like, I don't think like, just remember nostalgia, remember the human voice and like us. And I think the play is much more wise than the intellect. Like we worship the prefrontal lobes, like in the West, it's crazy. Like the shopping malls are the ashrams. There's people like Reverend, look, going around there. And there's so much more to the heart space, that inner cave, when we can let that lead. And I'm very curious to see what happens collectively with that. So
Mm.
they say it's the Kali Yuga, or we're in the Pisces, or I don't know, flip channels. I don't go much, but like something's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. One other thing that comes to mind is like, how do you know, I'm curious, how do you know personally, maybe when you were starting out on this journey and kind of chipping away at the layers of yourself, like how do you tell or how have you told in the past that you are, starting something that isn't in alignment with your soul, like something that is actually lighting you up? Like where do you feel it? Like what emotions, or maybe you feel it in your body or something, but like again, say it's like someone who I've talked to people, even recently, it's like, I don't even know what I'm into or interested in. Like, I don't know who I am. Like,
Yeah.
what piece of advice might you give to someone who's, yeah, like just at the very beginning of chipping away at those layers and they literally don't know what's what and what actually is gonna light them up?
The short answer is cultivate a relationship with your intuitive heart, your inner child. Like get into that. Spend time even thinking about that, even if it's going through trauma, if you need to have a psilocybin journey or anything, get into that, go back in. It's an inside game. So I'd say when you can have that relationship with your intuitive heart, that's where it starts to, the magic does happen. Like we get so outside of ourselves so much trying to like change this and control that, as opposed to just listening to us. And it might take a bit of listening and experimenting, but yeah. And remind me, what was the question? I totally forgot.
You know what? I forgot what the question even was.
Is to definitely to get into that heart, because you were asking something about.
Yeah, actually, no, I got it. I got it now. Yeah, like just
Had another.
a piece of advice for someone who, yeah, they don't know where to look. They don't know who they are, you know?
Yes, so when you have that relationship with your heart, I feel like that's where you can be guided truly who you are. Like a lot of the wondering up here, if we can't listen here, it's just going to be so difficult to and maybe a lot of errors and like things that are experimenting where we feel like we're spinning tires. But there is something about the heart, and I don't know how to describe like physiologically or to tell you how to do that, but it is a game of surrender, and I think it begins with being true and authentic to yourself, which to me, the way I translate that is allow myself. Like that's the word that needs to be used even more than love. I feel it's like appreciate, allow. You go out and you look at trees. Ram Dass talks about this, and you see these beautiful aspens and gnarled, twisted ones. How interesting. The moment you get around humans, the judging mind comes out. Oh, that one's this tall, this, that should be that. Oh, what a neurotic. What about an essence neurotic? Like, look at that. How interesting. When we allow, the game changes. I kid you not. Like, and especially with yourself. Like people forget that. Like you can practice like the book, let them. I think she also mainly talks about let you. Like you gotta let yourself, even if it looks messy or
Mhm.
let that feeling of ugly. You see how this is like a Zen koan? You can go so deep into this to where you're it. And that's where the game begins. Like that to me, it's like an oscillation in and out of that all the time.
Mm.
Hanuman, when I don't know who I am, I serve. When I know who I am you. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's so powerful. Dude, I feel like that's, a great way to close. Like, I'm curious if you have any other final thoughts, feel free to share them. Like, I'd love to hear if there's anything that's come through. Like, for my audience, I feel like it's going to be more people that yeah, have that call, that creative light, that spark. Maybe it's buried within them somewhere, and they've, been fearful up until now, right? Like, is there any other closing thought you just want to leave people with before I ask you, your socials?
So I'll just end on I gave you that one thing of advice is to find the intuitive heart seat wherever that is for you. The other one, I'll give a couple little like life hacks. Like, honestly, tap into your body, like rhythm. Like, if you can, that's where you get creative. I feel like it's changed the game for me. I used to be a wallflower, not dancing. I didn't go to prom. Total like frozen, you know? When I music has helped me uncover rhythm, now I love to dance with people and there's no fear. And I feel that's when my inner kid comes out. So whatever, even if you're a painter or doing something creative, get into your body. Like, what's a body practice? Do you like to break dance? Like, the drumming's huge. Like, that's just a hack I would say that I feel is so effective. Highly recommend it.
Dude,
Am sound.
that's so powerful. That's so powerful. Even myself recently, I totally relate to like dancing. Like over the last couple of years, I've gotten more into like electronic music and like EDM shows and stuff like that. And I
Yeah.
think like I still have some kind of room to grow when it comes to moving my body and stuff at those places. But I remember like my first one, I was definitely like super stiff, like just like rigid. And then, more now I'm starting to like groove a bit and like move my arms maybe and stuff. And it is cool. Like there's so much that gets released
Yeah.
through dance, right? And like just moving your body.
Yeah, one of the best ways to move energy, that chanting on the harmonium, really yelling it out is awesome. But yeah, it's like that god of rhythm when you cultivate that relationship with the groove. Even like playing pickleball, like we'll put on some beats. I can, like when you're dancing while you're playing, something happens where you're more effective. Like, and I think that could even happen like in your day. Like if you have these moments like boxing or something, just use the rhythm. The god of rhythm is going to teach you stuff. So.
So cool. So cool. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you and getting to know you. Yeah, I know you have a couple, social profiles on Instagram and stuff. So do you want to just like state what they are, like your personal and your I am sound one, and I'll put them in the link
Yeah,
description.
so the website's iamsound.one. And if you go there on the footer, you'll see the socials, but it's ias.creations on TikTok and Instagram. I'm Jer Robison on Instagram. And I go live weekly playing sound bass, different songs on the guitar. And yeah, I hope you join. And I'll definitely send you a link too if you want to get them a code to share for a discount. And it's a collaboration for I Am Sound. And
Epic, epic. Yeah. Go follow him, everyone. Go follow him. Go follow Jeremy. Thank you so much for coming on, man. It's been a pleasure. And thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.